Hello, Bill.
Oh, oh my God. Yes. I don't know. You're not, this is stupid. Why am I wasting my time with these people? It's wedding season. Crazy ass dance floor. It's in this box. It's this big. It's that wide. We'll fill it. It may not be polished yet. Now you're going to stand up and pee your pants. At a tree behind a bush. Are my tools sharper than most? Probably. So I think I might have gone off. We need to get back to the page we were on. Food and liquor. My dress will have a little blue in it. And I might cry, and I don't want to cry. Would want to watch a video podcast. Exactly. Anyway, I hit my microphone on the table. Sorry. Sunshine and blue skies and aqua water. There's only so much that I can do. Jumping around and dancing around and do a conga line here and there. Maybe I could take it from this place where you think it should be to maybe here. Do you like this better? No, I don't know so much about going all the way up here. I have to get out of my brain. It sucks. You can have a show, the Jim Collins Show, on a stage at the theater in town. And they can come and see the show. And they can spend $50, $100, $200 a ticket to see the talking garbage can. One big toddler. Now, I don't know if I can make that lady look nice. I would do it for you if I could. I just can't. Swinging from the rafters and pouring beer on each other. Just don't know how to shut up sometimes. Sorry. That was awesome. What's next?
Welcome to episode 22 of DJ Center Stage TV. I'm Jim Collins. Today on our show, we talk with husband, father, actor, artist, MC, DJ, teacher, coach from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Welcome, Bill Hermann, to the show. How you doing, Bill?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So first off, congratulations on your 21st episode of The Creative License.
You've been watching?
I love it. I love it.
It was you?
It was me. It was me. Each episode is roughly, about 4 to 6 minutes?
Yeah, it goes until I need to shut up. I try I try not to go past 10 minutes, but I haven't gotten there yet. So I usually just tackle one idea, one thought, and I talk about those ideas from my perspective, which hopefully will get some sort of an inner dialogue going or a conversation between other colleagues, and then try to make it interesting enough to want to look at again. And someday when I'm younger and better looking, I might have more than 17 people looking on a regular basis.
I think I had 15 watching this. We're getting close, but you offer great tips and content for DJs in such a short amount of time. It's just easy to view, and you get a lot out of it. And so I think it's just enough time that people could say, I could commit to 5 minutes or 6 minutes to tune in and listen to this. This is great. So
I hope so. I also put it's also on. I also put it on audio as well, so you can look for the audio podcast as well. I think you can find it on most of the aggregators, iTunes and Stitcher is what I use on a regular basis. I like Stitcher because you don't have to necessarily download it. You can stream each one of the episodes.
Oh, cool.
Any of the podcasts I like to listen to, so I don't have to download it to my phone and then remember to get rid of them, so it doesn't fill up my. But Stitcher and I use a service that aggregates it to most places, and most people find it on iTunes. But and that's for driving. You don't necessarily want to watch a video podcast. And I really never really understood why anybody would want to watch a video podcast. Exactly. Anyway, it's not like I'm dancing, or moving around, or it's a little radio thing anyway with a camera on me. But some people, most people that have been listening so far have been on YouTube, and you can find it on my YouTube Entertainment Experience page, and you can also see it on DJ with John Yan.
Right.
Well, he makes it available there. If you go to the Entertainment Experience, the Entertainment Experience Facebook page and the Creative License Facebook page, I make it available so people that follow those things can find it if in fact they wish. But it's, until I have thousands of people listening, it seems sometimes it's mostly just for me. So I'm having fun. So
I think the main thing is just once they subscribe to those and then share them. So I think it's important if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, then be sure to share it. You know, whether that's in other group pages that you're part of, the member of. I think it's important to get the information out to as many entertainers as possible. But
that would be nice. So yes, thank you for saying that. Share as much as possible and subscribe to everything.
Great.
And if when I hit my regular 100 people listening, I suppose I'll have a little party.
Nice.
I don't think I'll ever make any money doing it, but it's still fun.
It's fun. I checked out your website for your couples that are looking for services, and I watched the video that you put up there for advertising your services, and you mentioned a couple of things that really stand out just for me, but I can only imagine from a couple's perspective how the words that you say will really stand out and say, hey, this is really intriguing. I want to learn more. You say entertainment is more than just music. We talk about that in many DJ forums, that you're delivering an experience, but many couples they're not educated or really understand what we do as MCs. So when we meet with them and have our planning meetings or just that first visit with them, you could explain that and educate them. So there's another line that stood out. You mentioned that you are there to set a tone and tell a story. Can you elaborate on that thought?
Yes. Setting a tone. I mean, once again, I think we talked about it a little bit before we went on the air. But as my background is as an actor, and I've been an actor since I'm 5 years old. So I've looked at this from the actors and the theatrical perspective for a very long time. And when you're hired, or in a, let's say I'm in Fiddler on the Roof, I can go in and do what I can go in and read the lines the way I think I'd like to read the lines, but I really need to figure out the tone that the authors set, the story that the author is telling, and then finding a way to use the tools that I've been training my whole life since I'm 5 to be able to express that. My voice, the way I move, the way my facial expressions, all of those are tools, just a few of the tools you use to be able to, as an artist, express that tonal quality and to tell the stories that you're being told. So when I step into a situation with a wedding or a corporate function or any kind of event, I see it from that theatrical standpoint. I see it that I'm about to step onto the stage in the theater, and to do that, you automatically, or at least I automatically, think about all the things that are necessary. And the first thing that needs to be done is a story needs to be told. There's a story. There's already an inherent story at every event that you do. Weddings, even more so. Well, not necessarily even more so, but there's more moving parts, first of all, at a wedding reception. And it's a love story. It's almost always a love story that is being told. They've invited all of their closest friends to the event, and they've handpicked every one of them who they want to share not only this story of them finding each other, but the story of the event unfolding for the first time in front of all these people. Their first vows that they've done in front of other people. And so now that there's a story of them sharing their vows and then them sharing it publicly and for all of these people. So there's like little stories happening all the time, and they're inherently already happening. And without the MC, if you've been to the wedding story, you see the story every single time. You've been to a wedding, you've been to all of the weddings. There's really weddings are weddings are weddings. You can do it when you're jumping out of a plane. You can do it underwater. You can do it in Klingon, but there's still the wedding. They arrive and they go down the aisle and they say promises to each other on behalf, in front of an officiant, in front of all of their guests so that they can all see it. And then afterwards, they all say, wasn't that great? Now have a meal with us. Our first meal as husband and wife. Our first words to all of you. Our first glass of champagne with everyone. Our first dance. I might dance with my dad. They still do them all. What the guests see really differently only is the dressing. It's the window dressing. It's the backdrops. It's the curtain. It's the stage in which they do it on, which is all only a part of the theatrical experience. The rest of it now, you can be affected by the amazing costumes, because the bride will be seen for the first time in the room with, oh my gosh, how beautiful is she, right? So there's an emotional effect because the curtain opened and she came into the room. So now, do you allow them to, now they've seen the dress, they've always see a dress, it's going to a little different than they've seen before, maybe, but then, oh yeah, she walks down the aisle. How is that now a story that can be told around who they want, what they want to share? There's the moment when she and he find each other at the end of the aisle, when dad lets her go and gives her a hug and move. There's a story being told in all of that. And when we start to see those things, we can start to see how, in fact, we can affect those moments. And if, in fact, those moments need to be affected or the client wants them affected. So a story to be told, yeah, that's my job, is to tell a story, not my story. It's the story of what's happening. And it's easy to tell the story that we all know. But the problem is that the reason that people at wedding receptions leave at 9 is because they've seen that story. They've read that book. They've gone to that movie. If you went and saw Caddyshack, every day for 365 days, at some point you'd start fast forwarding through it. And even Caddyshack, one of the finest films that America has ever seen, you'd start fast forwarding or pausing. I've seen this part, right? Well, they've seen a wedding hundreds of times.
Or if it's Groundhog Day, then after the first 10 minutes, they'll shut it off if they haven't seen it before. It's the same thing over and over again.
Know that. And people start being affected by that.
Yeah.
And so now you've got a room full of people that are already jaded. They already don't want to stay. Oh, no, it's what, and people start talking about it's wedding season. When it could be something else. And because of my point of view, and because as an artist, to be fulfilled in what I do, I still want to create something each time. Well, now I have to, it started out with me trying to interest myself more. It started out with me sitting down with these people and saying, okay, so now what is it that you want to do? I mean, most of them don't even think about it. Most of them still come into it the same way that I just discussed. They went to a million weddings, so I want my wedding to be really different. And then you sit down and listen to what they want to say, and they go, and then they just repeat everything they've always seen.
Right.
Except I'm gonna, my dress will have a little blue in it. Okay. So I see, if I start to see that there's something to be told, I now have to dig a little deeper. I have to ask enough questions to find out, how do you want to feel? How do you want them to feel? Why are you making these choices? What's important to you about this and this? How, because now if I understand how people really want to feel, then now these tools that I've been training all of my life for, I can stand on a stage and fiddle on a roof, and there's a moment in the play that if I say it a certain way and I sing it a certain way, the room will fall quiet and breathless, and there will be tears and emotion, and the next moment has to be huge laughter. Okay, that's an actor's trains his whole life to be able to go from there to there and move an audience of people from 50 to 5,000 in a live situation. Well, you're given us all kinds of stories and all kinds of emotions that can be created on a regular basis. So now what are you going to do? Well, not necessarily you, but what am I going to do? People don't always see it the way I see it, and that's okay. I've just gotten to a point where I need to work on something else. And it's been successful for me because it is a different way of looking at things. And because of, and because it's not a bit that I do, I'm not doing a thing or a script or anything like that. I'm creating each one every single time. And as much as a lot of entertainers in the wedding business say they do that, it's easier to fall into what we've always done. I've got things that I would always love to fall into, what I've always done. I know they work, and there are still, music sets that I play that I know work. But when I am looking at it from that brand new perspective and no longer mine, their expectations and no longer mine, then I'm forced to create anew each time. That is great for me. And for the client who starts to begin to see that that is even possible, then you've got people that are excited. Now, not everybody sees it as possible. In fact, most people, even the people that have seen me work, are still kind of stuck in what there is, because weddings have been weddings for way longer than any of us have been alive. And the only thing really different sometimes are the words the priests say, and the dresses that are used, and the food that is eaten, and the traditions that they have brought in for culturally and things like that. So to look at things, and it hasn't really changed. It hasn't been that long ago since it's changed. I mean, I can remember when I first started out that for the father-daughter dance, no, you never asked what that song was even. It was always Daddy's Little Girl by Al Martino, unless they liked the Mills Brothers better. And
That's
usually it was
interesting.
Al Martino. And you didn't even ask. It just, that's what got played.
Hmm.
And they were expecting it. So there wasn't a conversation. What song would you like to dance with? No, it's always Daddy's Little Girl. Always, 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 always. It wasn't until the late 80s when people started to say, maybe I'd like to dance to something else.
Hmm.
And when they started to ask that question is when I started to ask that question. Because I was trained like every other DJ, by the same guy, the guy who's been training people for 200 years. This is the way we do it. Come on, guys, let's all get together. The same bouquet toss, the same garter toss, the same first dance, the first outfit, the radio station T-shirt, all that stuff.
So in the way that you dig deeper with couples, asking why, asking how, just the different questions that you ask them in the planning, how much time are you spending collaborating with a couple when you are planning their celebration? I don't know if there's a set number of visits that you have with them or if it's just ongoing, or how does that work?
There's not a set going. I mean, that's probably the toughest part about what I do. And the thing that's always the most surprising at the workshops that I teach is they're expecting me to lay out my my systems and procedures to be able to have, okay, well, this is the little ball of, this is how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how much it takes, and only do this one. Look, when people are trying to share an emotional thing about their life, it isn't something they can just give a lot of thought to and just express, and especially not to somebody that they're not their uncle or not their father. And even those people, they're not necessarily being completely honest with all the time. So it takes for me what it takes for me. And not everybody wants to be that kind of forthcoming with anybody, much less a vendor. So there is the time it takes to be able to create a relationship that would have them be more honest with me than they have been with their parents oftentimes. I don't know, if I do an actual a narrative love story, something that was taught, that's taught by Mark Farrell, and a workshop that I've taken. And if I tell that story at their wedding reception, I need to really understand these people. I can't just make something up. I can't make up what I think they're feeling. I need to really understand. And to do that, they need to trust me to give me a lot of information. And if they don't trust me enough, then I'm just telling everybody what everybody knows. I'm just sharing what everybody knows. I'm not sharing anything that makes a room laugh or cry or cheer or any of that stuff. And that's what a great storyteller does. Now, to get there, they have to trust me. And if they trust me enough, then I almost every single time have a parent come up to me afterwards and say, I didn't even know that. A parent, a brother, a sister, they didn't even tell me that. I think I always used to put it to that I just must be asking and their parents aren't. I always thought it was that, but really it's a relationship that's created. So how much time does it take? It takes what it takes. I've done a consultation to decide whether or not I want to work with a client when I first meet them, and it'll take 30 minutes or it'll take me 3.5 hours. It really depends on what's necessary for us to come to a conclusion around. They understand me, I understand them, and now we understand each other. Now, do we actually like each other? And sometimes it'll get rushed, other times it won't. But at the end of it, we both understand each other to a point where, okay, well, if we work together, it's going to cost so much to work with Bill Hermann, and not only financially, but emotionally and time spent and collaboratively. And they're going to understand how much I am committed to making sure that they do what they do and have what they have. And why I need what I need to be able to promise that when I make a moment happen, it will be as I described it. If I tell them that their first dance, they'll have people clutching at their chest and breathlessly waiting with tears in their eyes and goosebumps on their body, just like you see at your favorite movie. If I say I'm going to do that, then there's some time and effort that needs to go into making sure that happens. So what is going to take? Some people is going to take a certain thing. Some people is going to be others. Some people are very forthcoming. Others aren't,
Right.
And if you don't know that in the first consultation, that they can be forthcoming, And I've even said, you know, at the end of things, I've had a bride who's really excited and very forthcoming, and a groom who's, you know, at the end of it, I'll be like, you know, I'd love to do this, but I don't know that I can. And, you know, and no offense to you, I can tell that this matters to you this much, and this matters to you this much.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're both not on the same page, there's nothing I can do for you that's going to be what you are describing and what you would like from me, because I can't show. And if it's a sweet 16 birthday party for just her, one thing, but it really is the two of you. As much as you think that you're just doing this just for her, it is the two of you. And if you can't be in it, then I can't necessarily help you. I've turned away an event because I've had a father of the bride who's like, I don't know, you're not, this is stupid. You know, DJs are awful, and you're going to be, when you're in, like, how much for you? It's like, okay, I completely get it. I'm not offended in any way, not in the littlest bit. I just know that if your daughter's happy and you're not, can't do anything for you. If you're not excited and she is, can't do much for you. If you're not in it on the collaboration, I can't do much for you. So what does it take? It takes the time necessary to create the relationships of trust with the people that you are going to take over for. Their wedding is one of the most personal, one of the most expensive in terms of money and in terms of emotional impact and in emotional time spent that they'll ever do. And if they don't think that I care for them as much or more than just the music I'm going to play, then that's all I can do to affect. I can just hope that the song that I play will affect them the way they think it's going to. Or I can create the narrative around what they want to be told, and then the event will flow that way. So now playing Tiny Dancer by Elton John will work the way they wish it to, as opposed to, well, let's just see. We like this song, and sometimes it works. We love having speeches, and sometimes people listen. You know, we love the fact that they're going to dance and have a great party, and sometimes that works out at weddings. So we just figure we're going to throw music in it, we're going to throw a DJ in it, we're going to throw food and liquor and their friends, and we're going to hope that my friend, that one we invited that makes all the parties start, you know, that guy that has just enough alcohol at that right time, and every time he hears Billie Jean, he goes nuts and everybody follows him and the party goes. And we're going to hope that all happens. Well, you know, for an average of $30,000 a wedding, it's a lot of money to hope it happens. And
Great.
with this experience, the way that I work with my clients, I can guarantee that it will. I mean, literally guarantee with my money and my reputation that it will.
Backing up to what you mentioned, Bill, just when we were talking about a love story, and mentioning creating something out of that and planning with your couples to really understand who they are. If you look at everybody has seen their bio of how they met, you know, their story of how they met on the knot. They'll have a section and a page of that. So if you're just replicating that, you're losing. I mean, as sharing that experience, and you're not bringing forth anything new or emotional really out of that. So you have to really dig deep and get creative and present your love story in a way, right, that would show that emotion, convey that emotion, capture people as you described.
Agreed. But at the same time, you know, first of all, not everybody does the knot thing, but a lot of people
Yeah,
do.
right.
What I do know is very few people read it. And even if every last guest that showed up read and understood everything the bride and groom wrote in the knot, give me that script, that exact script, and let me describe it in the event, and I will affect people in a different way than what they read.
Mm-hmm.
Because an actor creates a certain thing, an author creates a different thing, and an author creates in a way that can happen inside of your mind when you're alone reading it. Okay, and the theatrical experience, it is a shared emotional experience. It is the reason why they can do a play and you can see it on Broadway, and every last person in the room will laugh exactly at the time that they're supposed to, because it was written for that. And then, well, not even as much written for that as the actor delivered the line in a way that it was designed to do that. So give me a bad script and I can still tell the story better. It's not really in the script. It's not the story that works. It's not the special introductions that works. It is in how you do those things. You know, it's once again, my good friend and mentor and friend, Mark Farrell, will say it on a regular basis, and it's completely true. It's not what you do. It's just not. It's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do all of the tritest things at every single wedding. I can do the electric slide. I can do the chicken dance. I can play the YMCA. I can do a bouquet toss exactly how it's done for hundreds of years. The format rather, okay, and a garter toss, the format. Okay, the introductions, the format can be the format that everyone's always done. But because I'm attached to it, I have choices that I can make, because in how I do it now, I know, because I've done it hundreds of times and probably thousands of times now, that I know that if I turn a phrase a certain way, if my voice changes a certain way, that I'll have a different result, because it's not what you do. It's how you do it. It's not the words. It's how you express them. It's not the song. It's not in the words as much as sometimes the pauses. It's difficult to, even in the workshop, it's like they're okay. Now then show me how you would say good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, how I would say it is how my instrument does it to make an audience go, wow.
Yeah.
Now you have to find yours.
Right.
You need to know that there is one for you. And finding that that's the work, really. You have an instrument that can do these things, okay? It may not be polished yet. You may not be ready to be able to know that every audience you stand in front of will stand rapt in attention. But you can. So why can't you? Because you haven't tried, and you haven't failed. You haven't, gone down all the rabbit holes necessary to be able to find the one that's yours, that makes your rabbit hole the water slide.
What I was thinking about was how when you're sitting down and you're talking with couples for the first time, and whether that's a half-hour meeting or a 3-hour visit with them, let's say that you feel, okay, it's a good fit. You're going to plan out this experience for them. And then in the future planning sessions that you do have with them, they're not opening up as you hoped they would. And then now you have this big dilemma of, how am I going to represent them in the best fashion? How can you handle that?
First of all, being unafraid to be straight,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. Yeah, I've had that. And I've yet to have to say to a client, we should probably cancel our contract. But I've gotten close where I've said, you said you wanted a certain thing. And you say you still want a certain thing, yet we're not getting together. Or we're not finding time. You're not being forthcoming. It feels like you're uncomfortable with this whole process. What's going on? Oftentimes it has very little to do with me. And most times it's just a conversation that needs to be had.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, because we are entertainers, we take everything personally. It is about us. Oh, our ego and our narcissism and our need for approval needs people to say yes when we ask them to buy, and say yes when we give them ideas, and then be there with us and creating. Not everybody's like that. If you're married, you understand this. If you got kids, you got to understand that not everybody's always on the same page with you all the time. So what it is that you do when you get together and have client meetings and they're not on the page all of a sudden, well, it's like, well, then we need to talk. Something's going on. My wife thinks that I'm kind of doing therapy when I have those kind of conversations with people. And honestly, it's not. It's like, we need to get back to the page we were on when we said we were going to work together. So you're not on this page anymore. So what's happened? What's going on? And you did say you wanted this and you wanted me to create that. And I can't do that without you guys being with me. So there's something has changed. And if they can't tell me or won't tell me, then we've probably made a decision or made the wrong decision about working together. But when they start to say, well, look, remember how you're spending more on me than you're going to spend on just getting the DJ to show up. Okay, I can still show up and I can play music and I can do what you have seen. But you spend a lot of more money on me than if you would have got that guy. That guy doesn't charge very much. That guy is, and he ought to be charging more, but he's not. So maybe we should rethink this if you are looking for a situation where you don't have to work that hard. And I would understand, and I really do. I mean, a wedding is if nothing else, the emotional time and effort spent on a wedding is is overwhelming, to say the very least. So for me then to say, okay, now we're gonna work on things like essay questions. I'm gonna ask you really, really personal things, and and then I'm gonna make it really wonderful for you. But now I can't be in your head about how worried you might be, everybody watching you, and I might cry, and I don't want to cry. It's like, okay, you don't want to cry. I'll do my best and not make you cry, but I can tell you a story in a funny way. You're gonna cry. This is what I know will happen. So now, do we need to revisit your decision? Is it something you really don't want to do? And oftentimes it's never me. In fact, it never is. It's my mother said, or my friends are saying, oh my God, I went to a wedding last week and the DJ tried to do a love story and it was really awful. Oh my God. It's like, okay, no, I really understand that. There's a lot of people out there trying to do a lot of the things that I can do that are doing them really poorly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because they don't care. It's because they just don't have the 40 plus years experience that I do. And in the first 20 years of doing it, I sucked really bad. I am just recently in the last 20 some years gotten halfway decent at this. I get it. So either you believe that what you saw is what I'm going to do. So, and if you do, we shouldn't work together because you're now going to be feeling like this every day until your wedding. Or we need to get back around the same page you were at. What you saw isn't necessarily what you're paying for. Now, you either trust that I can do it, and if you don't, I shouldn't. I shouldn't. Reminding them that I'm there on their behalf. I'm not there to do it for me. And oftentimes, people that are not succeeding with things like love stories or special speeches or introductions or things that happen that are interactive, they're just doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it because it amuses them. I think it would be cool for them, and not necessarily would the client like it, and then how in fact can I express myself so it doesn't freak everybody out or make everybody nervous. And I know that because that's the way I used to do it. I had lots of really fun and funny garter ideas that I thought were amazingly funny. I thought they were funny. They amused the crap out of me. And thinking back now, nobody found them as funny as I did, except for maybe the grossest guys in the room. Okay. So now, was I doing them a service, or was I getting paid to amuse myself? And I was. I mean, for every song I played, if you danced, I was amused. If I told a joke in the mic and you laughed, I was amused. Everything I did was to amuse me, was to affect me, to make me feel better, that I could make you smile, laugh, cry. Okay, I got a lot out of it. Okay, so now when I shifted that, and I started to look at it from the director's point of view and the producer's point of view and the audience's point of view, as opposed to me, then how I did things now shifted completely from the moment that I met people to the very last song and note and thing out of my mouth. It was now, when it starts to become about me, then I start to fail. But when I stay that my show is not even the closest thing about me, I just have, my tools are like the hammer and the saw that can build a window. Okay. So are my tools sharper than most? Probably, but that's subjective too. Who knows? Another reason why I charge a higher fee than most people is I want my fee to be look, if somebody's going to pay me at the end of the day the kind of money that I charge, then they were truly happy. Okay. Whereas there's lots of DJs and bands and entertainers out there doing private events that are charging just enough money to I didn't like him, but we got a contract. We'll pay him anyway, and it's not really telling that performer that they're any good, but they have proof that they are. Because if I stand in front of a DJ who's really not that great and say, you really should work on this and work on that, there's a lot of things you could change to help with the industry and help us all as a collective. And you could be so much better if you just did. And then first of all, they hear their father, you should be doing this. So there's something wrong with you. Change what you're doing, and then they have proof that I'm wrong. Shut up. You don't know. Look, I charged $500. I got paid. Client paid me. You don't know what you're talking about. They're right. So once again, my fee is to put me on the same level of skin in the game as the client does, because without my fee, you know, that's a mortgage. You know, that's, I'm out of business. If I get one bad review, okay, that's a year's worth of work could go down the toilet.
Sure.
And the fees are such that I only work 25 to 30 at the most shows a year. And I make just enough of a living to be able to have a small house and car and a truck, and my kids, you know, I can pay my taxes. My kids can go to school and they can, you know, get piano lessons or art lessons or whatever they want. It's a very basic living, but these people are risking 30 grand or more on one shot and a thing they don't know how to do. So that's their skin in the game. What's mine?
Yeah.
I'll take your money. Now, it's a different way of thinking about it. And most guys don't want to go there. Most wedding vendors don't want to go there. It's, you know, I don't do light. Did I ever tell you I don't do lights? I can make them available, but I don't do lights.
I did hear that. I think in one of your podcasts you mentioned that. It's just uplighting, the photo booth, and the glow sticks, and we'll also give you a back massage, you know, all those extras that you put in.
Well, I can make them available, but it isn't part of what I do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen very often that I've got a client that'll call me and say, well, but why not? And I really want to have a thing, and I'm thinking about doing it, so I really want. Just the other day, on my drive to another meeting, I had a young lady who's getting married in a year. And she's really worried about the fact I'm not going to have dance floor lighting. And I'm like, okay, so what? So can you have dance floor lighting for me? I said, well, yeah, I can do it. I said, but once again, you know, I kind of feel like I'm taking your money. It's an easy way for me because you're really an easy sell. Yes, you need dance floor lighting. I can do $1,500. You can have dance floor lighting, and I could bring in a truss, or I could bring in a tree. I could do a decor lighting, which she's not that thrilled about anyway because the place is mostly windows. But I could sell it on her because she trusts me. I said to her, well, you know, $1,000 for uplighting, and we could, the columns between the windows, we could use the reflections in the ceiling. It would still be amazing, you know. And she'd be like, yes, great, finally somebody who agrees with me. Instead, I said, well, you know, yeah, I can, but this is what a light tree is going to look like in your room. I can't make a light tree pretty. It's just a light tree is a light tree, a light tree. I can hide the cords, but it's still a light tree. I can hide the stanchions, but it's still a truss. And it's not designed to match the room you're in. So you're going to have that. Are you sure? You sure? Because it's not going to match. It's a big deal that everything matches for you. Can't find a way to match it. You know, hide a tree behind a bush. There's no bushes. You know, there's no fake trees. They're not going to let me get up into the ceiling and hang trusses from the ceiling to help hide that stuff. So that'll be difficult to do. Plus, to light up the dance floors, you can do that. But the last few times I did that, I had clients that thought it was a little too flashy. So, I mean, because it was in people's eyes, and you know how old people are like, turn it down and turn them lights off. That is the audience's perspective. So, okay, that's going to get back to you as well. Are you sure you want that? And then if in fact I do this for you, it's probably going to cost me a minimum of $800. And that would be maybe for 4 good Martin scanners that I could put in certain parts of the room, that I could direct 2 of them at the dance floor and a couple up there on the ceilings, and create some kind of an ambiance that you like and still give you dance floor lighting. Sure you want to go there? Throw an extra $800 to $1,000 at your wedding when you're already spending this much money on a thing that the last time I did it, my bride didn't even notice. DJs get really upset when I talk about this because they think that I don't like lights, and it's just not true. I love DJ lights. I love every one of them. I love everything they can do. They are awesome. I used to use the crap out of my super strobe, man. It was the coolest effect I had, that because I got to be behind the damn thing. And when I turned every light off in the room and I hit that super strobe, it looked like they were in that movie, you know, that old timey movie. It was the greatest. I loved it, and I used the crap out of it. It annoyed everybody. Everybody was annoyed but me. Same thing with all my lights. Everybody was annoyed but me. And the last time I did that, like that 4 Martin thing, I charged her $1,000. I put a tree behind me with 4 Martins, and 2 of them scanned the dance floor and 2 scanned the room, and it looked cool as hell. I thought it was really awesome. And at the end of the night, when they were giving me a hug and I was getting, you know, how are you? And wasn't that great? I love you. And they were tipping me and all this stuff. And I said, oh yeah, by the way, what do you think of the lights? And she went, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We had lights.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't notice.
Yeah.
That's $1,000. And you didn't notice.
But it puts it into perspective, right? I mean, as far as the whole experience and what they really valued out of the experience.
Right. And there is lighting, if used well, can have a experience to it. But we don't. You really need to have a lighting guy who understands lighting cues.
Yeah.
And look, when I use decor lighting, uplighting, architectural lighting, whatever you want to call it, when I use it, I have a moment when it's turned on. They don't arrive to a room with it on. There is a reveal, because without the reveal, the room is just a pretty room, and they don't know how it happened. But if there's a reveal with 300 people in the room goes, oh my God. Oh. Well, that's what they've paid me to do. That thing that they just, they're paying for the, oh my gosh, not for the light. If I can do that with a smile, I'll charge just as much.
Yeah.
If I can do that by flickering the house lights, I will. Really. Because they're not paying for what I can say or what I can do, how I can say it, the equipment that I bring, any of the experience that I have. They're paying for the, oh, or yay, or oh. They're paying for those things. And how I do it now, if I can do it with a boombox, I will, with less gear. If I don't have to bring in equipment, and I can promise that, they'll pay me for that every single time. So it's that point of view. You know, that's why, and you can go see a Shakespearean play of Midsummer Night's Dream, and with one piece of scenery on the stage, or a stage that transforms the theater, and still can have emotional experiences, because you're getting paid for the emotional experience, not for how the set looks, not for how the costumes are. It's for what the actor can do in the room, what the artist can write, all of that stuff. Did I take a lot of classes over the years? Yeah, but were they DJ workshops? No. You know, I'm an actor, so I've taken every show that I've been in has been a class, because I've been around actors that have known their job way better than me, directors and writers and producers that know my job way better than me. So I've learned guerrilla style from those people. I've taken acting courses. I've taken lighting courses. I've been a lighting apprentice and a lighting designer in theater. I've done staging and backdrops and props, and I've been the writer, I've been the director, I've been all of these things. I learned by doing, and I've taken tons of classes. I've done comedy, and I've taken comedy classes. I've done improv and taken improv classes. I've taken radio courses and been in radio for years. I do voiceover. Anything that I can do as a performer, I've done and still do. And the best way to get better at anything is to continue to do. You don't have a show, you should be taking a class. If you don't have a class, you don't have a class, you should be doing a show. That's a great acting teacher when I was in my 4th show told me that, and it's been with me since forever. The workshop is that point of view shift that it took me all these years to get to. It's the point of view shift of seeing this from these perspectives. And it's 2 days of forcing you to see what you're already doing from those perspectives. Because there's nothing you're doing now that cannot be done in a way that that can have a better effect on an audience. Okay, everybody that comes and does my workshop doesn't need to take my workshop. They're already successful. They're already doing well. What this does is takes a job that we think is a bubble. I mean, we think DJing is this. It's in this box. It's this big. It's that wide. And we'll fill it until we know that we know everything in it. And then what? You know, then, well, I'm getting paid, and I've got a small business, or I got a big business, and I'm getting paid. I've got this thing that I do. It's this thing that I do every day. It is, you know, and it can't be any better, because I know how to do this and I know how to do that. I've learned how to do this. Because I think it's this. Well, what the point of view shift does is it breaks those boxes away and shows you that what we are and who we are and what we can do is way bigger than even the person who thinks they know really knows what it is. And it takes apart everything you do, the entire event and everything you do within it, in such a way that you can tweak 1 or 2 things with it, you know, because there's all these things that are already happening. The staging is already a thing, whether the audience knows it or not. How the room is staged matters to how they are experiencing what's happening. Okay. And so it's already staged, poorly or well, or kinda, or sorta. But the room is seeing it as this thing. Every guest sees it that way. So can that be manipulated? Yes. And should it be? It depends on how you want the guest to be affected, how your client wants the guest to be affected. But that's one piece of it now. So now the story itself. What is the story that's actually being told? And where are the chapters? And where are the scenes? And where are the tiny stories within that? Just the first time you open a mic, there's a story that's being told. Okay, so you can either tell it in a way that affects them like a story does, or you don't. Okay, the moment they arrive and you don't have a microphone, there's a story being told. And how they arrive when the door opens to the event and they come in, there's a curtain rising into a new experience for them to go and put the gift down at the gift table. There's a story being told. So just in the story, there's this breakdown that I help people to see so that they can begin to see where, if they were affecting the event, how it could be affected. Not necessarily that they should be, but once you see where it can be, then you begin to see how much power you actually have in being able to create this experience for people. And that's just two things. That's just staging and story, but there's transitional pieces, and there's endings. There's a beginning and a middle and an end to every little thing. So do you know what those things are when you say your name for the first time, or when they open the curtain and walk into the building? What is the beginning and the middle and the end of the little tiny story that's already inherently happening? But we walk into it as an island to ourselves, like an act. We're an act, you know. There's all this stuff is happening, and I have nothing to do about it until I say my first announcement and I act. And even that, my act is over when I turn the microphone off and the background music begins again. So it's just my act. And the act is like a band who plays blues music that does your wedding. And if everybody loves blues music, it will work. Maybe.
Right.
Because that's all they do. That's all they do. That's all they do. Whereas we can come in with an idea of being able to create something extraordinary and then move with the audience. But also understanding that that moment is yours to manipulate or not. And manipulate is an ugly word, but it is kind of what happens. And manipulate, it can be an ugly word if you use it, if you use your skills for evil, but if you're helping to enhance that story, then you can understand that every little moment matters. Now, the performance that you provide is one small piece of a much bigger thing that's happening. And in the workshop, we go through that in great detail for 2 straight days. Most of this is what's really happening happens in the first day. This is what you need to understand, is what's happening already without you saying a word. So now part of the first day is performance, and most of the second day is performance. And then there's a sales conversation that happens as well. And then there's a bonus workshop on the 3rd day around the art of the audio edit, which is something that I've done very differently than other people for years. And I didn't really think so until I made it available for people to take the class, and they just I had never really looked at it this way from these perspectives. I don't teach people how to edit in this. I used Adobe Audition poorly. I know how to, cut things up and move them around and turn them up and down, and, use my 4 to 5 tracks and create something extraordinary. But it has to do with the subject matter and what you can get out of the subject matter. For me, and being able to interview in the right way, to be able to edit that interview in the right way, to be able to ask the kind of questions that create emotive responses and create emotion, so that you can take a song and not just put a bunch of words over an already beautiful piece of art, but to take that piece of art and make it more, make it better. Not even necessarily better, just have it rise above what it already is. Because that's rule number 1 on the whole edit thing for people, that I tell people, is like, you never the art is the art, and if you ruin the art, then you're not doing justice to it. They already picked a song that means something to them, that speaks to them, that the art already talks to them. So if you're going to add something, it should make the art soar even higher. It should bring the emotion higher to the surface, or you shouldn't do it at all.
Right. I saw a video that you did on, and you put it on Facebook. It was probably about 2 months ago. It was a father-daughter dance where you had an example of that. And at the end, the way you worded it at the end, it was just a different way of doing it. You said, "There's nothing better than that, ladies and gentlemen, is there?"
Well, and then that was just that's what was being, that's a transitional piece is what that was. That has to do with transition. You know, transition has more to do with what the room is thinking than what you think should be. And if I'm going to open my mic after something that beautiful and emotional, it should be to speak out loud what the world is thinking. I need to be enough in that moment, regardless of whether I created it or not. I need to be listening closely, not only to what's happening to the speakers, but what's happening in the room.
Right.
If I'm going to open my mic.
Yeah.
Honestly, what all I said was what the room was thinking, you know, and that's what your job is. If you're actually going to speak, you need to make a great transition. You need to be able to acknowledge what's already happening in the room so that you can be the guy that they understand knows what's happening in the room before you can ask it to go somewhere else. Because a transition is that bridge between the one emotion to the next emotion, to the one moment to the next. Well, I can't take you from this moment if I don't understand how you're feeling. If I didn't hear it, if I didn't see it, if I didn't listen, if I can't acknowledge it, then why would they listen to me? Wasn't that great, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for coming. And they're like, shut up. Why did you ruin that? I didn't necessarily ruin it. I just didn't listen. You don't hear it, but I heard it. You know, if you listen to the room, you know, they're already going, oh, it doesn't get any better than that. At least in that moment, that's what they were thinking. That's how they were feeling. That's why it worked. Now, what you didn't hear was how the next thing I said, because there was another thing that happened after that. So like transition, once again, takes from one thing to the next. And I now I'm building the bridge and I'm telling them how to think. If I'm going to tell them how to think, I need to know what they're thinking first.
Yeah.
And believe me that I know what they're thinking. So to say the wrong thing means that you don't know, shut up. Yeah. Or I know, I know. They should be going, oh yes, I know. So as long as the moment I've got them, yeah, I know, then I can say, and now you're going to stand up and pee your pants. And they will, because I'm inside their head.
And I think that's the difference too. You can script out what you're going to say, but being in the moment too, when things will come, when things arise, and trying to capture that those come up, because scripting, I like to do that. I'm to prepare for events as well, just to be focused and have that. But there's a fine line, I think, too. You got to have the best of both worlds. I'm not saying you have to, but I feel that you have to have the best of both worlds, where you have it there too, but you could also be in the moment and create something as a transition and feel what people, as you mentioned, are thinking, say what people are thinking already.
Well, scripting is important because you need to have a basic format of where you're going, because without it, it's difficult to improv successfully when you don't already have a path.
Mm-hmm.
Improv for its sake as improv, pure improv, has zero path. Okay, if you've ever taken an improv class, if you take especially long form improv, it's about getting on stage with the troupe and doing enough weird ass crap before you start a scene that takes everybody out of their head, so that your brain can begin with nothing in your head.
Mm.
So actually, pure form improv and long form is about starting without a audience suggestion. An audience suggestion should just get you playing on stage so that your brain can get an empty, and then the first person that steps out, the first thing in their head goes. It doesn't necessarily have to be about what's said. But in a situation with a story and a theatrical piece, that there's a story that's already being told, and a story that everyone already knows when they get there. So you need to understand it goes from point A to point B to point B. You know, there has to be a story. There is scripting. There was scripting in that transition that I gave you, but at the same time, without the scripting, then I'm guessing. Okay, this script has to be there. Now, to read it only without first acknowledging what matters in the room, so that the room is on my side, or rather I'm on their side, that our brains and thought process are all the same, then I can say oogdy boogity anga banga blah blah blah, literally that, because it was in my script, and they'll say yeah, because I understand where they were before we began.
Yeah,
our brains were connected. So now the script is going. Now, if the improvisation of it takes me to another place, And now I can go there. I could be, wasn't that wonderful? And somebody says, yes, it was. And I can go over to them and say, tell me more about it. I could literally follow that line into the room with everyone as long as I wanted to. But once you follow it, if the script isn't there, then you follow it into a big hole. I don't know where to go. Well, now you have to have the script. The script that's the thing that brings you back to the next thing, because that's what you're paying you to do too, is not only is to take everybody from point A to point B. The only way to go from point A to point B in a way that feels organic and not feel forced, don't feel like you're pushing them, is to be able to acknowledge what's in the room first, whether it be emotion like you saw, excuse me, emotion like you saw with tears and beauty, or big laughter, or unbelievable cheers, or crazy drunk party. Whatever that is, the room is feeling a certain thing altogether. and you need to understand that, you know, a room thinks like one big toddler. It's thought process of a group of people is like one big huge toddler. They're all thinking the same exact thing at the same exact time, and they're all about, that was awesome. What's next? I love go. Well, how am I supposed to think about this? Okay, that's how I'm supposed to think about this. Then I will. What am I supposed to do next? Okay, then I will. And how am I supposed to? Am I supposed to like it when I'm done? Okay, then I will. So that's why. That's how you talk to an audience. I mean, you don't talk to them like babies, but really, you know, this is what we're gonna do. This is how you're gonna feel. Wasn't that awesome?
And that's the difference. So what do you have going on, Bill, in the next couple of weeks as far as workshops, anything for education?
You know, I do the entertainment experience workshop once a year. I'm thinking about doing it a second time this year, but I haven't really figured that out. So it'll be a little late for me to try to get a second one in before the end of the year. But I always, the only thing I've ever done, except for a few things overseas, which I'm doing one this year, in November in the United States, here in Minneapolis, every November, and this year it's November 13, 14, and 15. It will be here in Minneapolis, actually Burnsville, Minnesota, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, at the Electro Voice headquarters. Electro Voice is my main sponsor. EV, Mike Dussault, if you've never met him, you get a chance to meet Mike when he's around. And you get a chance to see the R&D department while you're here. They take you in the back and show you all the bells and whistles, how much time they spend how much time they spend trying to destroy everything they sell, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. They literally have a guy whose job is to get crap to blow up. Awesome.
Oh, that's
amazing. And then they have an anechoic chamber, which there's very few of these things even in the world. It's one of the first ones, and it is, if you don't know what anechoic means, no echo. There are these 6-foot bevels of foam in the room, on the floor, on the ceiling, on all the sides. You stand in the middle of the room on chicken wire, so you're immediately exactly in the middle of the room. And if you stand there all by yourself and close your eyes, within about 60 seconds to 2 minutes, you will probably fall over.
Right.
It's a really weird sensation. I've never been in a room without my head feeling like stuffed up. It's a really awesome, weird experience. And a chance to be inside of this anechoic chamber is really amazing. And Electro Voice makes that available. They usually buy us some lunch, and they show off some the newest magical speakers they're creating. And they'll test out things and let you play with stuff and turn it up and go crazy. So people love that place. But the workshop, usually it happens, there's 2 workshops. There's the flagship workshop, which is the entertainment experience Power to Create. That's the first 2 days, Monday, Tuesday. And then the third day is the Art of the Audio Edit, which is usually a $900 workshop that if you take the first 2 days, I will let people take for another $300. So not everybody does it. Almost everybody does. And to take the third day, you have to have a working knowledge of an editing program already. I don't really care what you use. They all do the same thing, but you can't, download an editing program and show up that day, or you'll spend the entire day trying to figure out how your program works.
Oh yeah, right.
So it's like when somebody wants to do it, they call me up and they say, okay, what does it need to be able to do? Okay, well, here's the 5-6 things that you need to make it do. And these are simple, but I don't know how you make your program cut. Like, you need to be able to add an audio file to your program. Boom. You need to be able to cut it up into pieces. Boom. You need to take those pieces and move them around 4 different tracks. Great. You need to be able to turn each of those little pieces up and down volume-wise. Perfect. You can do all those things. You have enough technical knowledge to take the class.
Right. Be semi proficient already in what you're doing and what software you're using for it. So when you show up.
And I know that because, I mean, honestly, Adobe Audition will do thousands of things, and I can make it do 9.
Hey, that's all right.
I need to do it's the stuff. Adobe Audition is the program I learned when I worked in radio. Well, and nowadays you probably need to working in radio because now, you know, they don't necessarily everything is digital now. Even the compression and everything's digital. In my studio, I get a Yamaha compressor from an old radio station.
Right.
I know how it works. I can make that thing work, but I can't necessarily work the compressing unit add-on into my editing program, which is weird to say out loud, but I don't need to, you know what I mean? So the August workshop is in Australia. If you'd like to get on a plane and come to Australia and write that trip off, I'm going to be in Sydney, and there are 3 seats still open in that one. So there's some Aussies that are still thinking about coming. There's a couple of New Zealanders that are thinking about coming still, but the workshop is fine the way it is, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to be speaking at the DJAA's conference, which happens in Sydney. DJAA is a Disc Jockey Alliance of Australia. It's the only association in Australia, and it has all the biggest and brightest people. And it's going to be it happens every year, and it's great. It's been happening for at least for the last 5 years. It's a great little conference, and I've been honored to be asked to speak and then asked to put on this workshop. And then each year in November, I do it here in Minneapolis. I'm in negotiations to be able to do a second one in the United States, but I'm not really at liberty to say where yet and when. But that's just a negotiation that may not even show up until after the one in Minneapolis are done.
Got it.
There's only 16 seats, and each person who wants to take the workshop, you can certainly go online and just buy a ticket, but I don't recommend doing it without calling me. You know, call me up first. Let's talk about it. Let's find out if it's something that's really going to work for you, something you really want to do, something that you really want to see happen. And then afterwards, if in fact you want to, and I know that I can make this a transformational experience for you, then we'll talk about the business end of it.
So Bill, for performers, is that the best way for them to get in contact then by phone, give you a call, or should they email you? Or?
You can find me online because all my contact information. People reach out to me on Facebook, which is sometimes the easiest for everybody because everybody's on Facebook. But a cell phone call, yeah, easy. You know, it's I can tell you, it's 612-327-5919. It's easy. Put it right out there. Everybody can call me. You can text me on that number as well. You can email me, bill@billherman.com. Okay. You can go to the Entertainment Experience website and snoop around there, but there's not as much there as there is in a conversation with me. And it's entertainment-experience.com. The Facebook, I've got a Facebook page for me. I've got one for my business. I've got one for the Entertainment Experience. I've got one for Creative License. All of those places you can message me, easy enough. But no matter what happens, we're going to have a conversation, probably something like this, a video thing where we talk to each other and we find out, well, where are you? And what do you want to do? And will this work? And then we'll talk about whether you want to pay a little bit at a time or you want to pay all at once. But there's only 16 seats.
Right.
And beyond that, I can't do a whole lot. And there's a bunch of seats already sold, but there's enough available that, the few people that are going to be serious about this can come and do it.
And
I know that everybody who's ever wanted what they want, everybody who ever went out and got what they wanted, got what they wanted. Everybody. I've always gotten everything I really wanted in my life.
I wanted to be bald. I did. I 6 years ago, I said I would like the follicles on the top of my head to slowly. So, okay, stay tuned next week for episode 23. Thanks again, Bill. Take care, everyone.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.